ceremonial greeting on Wednesday, President Donald Trump meets his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping, beginning a rare trip to Beijing. Despite the fanfare, Trump faces growing pressure back home to reckon with the Chinese Communist Party's intensified crackdown on religion and those with dissenting views. For months, family members, advocates, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have urged Trump to use his trip to China, his first in 9 years, to push for the release of several high-profile prisoners. One of the most prominent is the pro-democracy activist and devout Catholic Jimmy Lai. But in new comments on Friday, Trump signaled his release is looking unlikely.
What about Jimmy
I discussed it.
What about Jimmy Lai?
It's a tougher one. I did bring it up. It's a tougher one. For him, it's a tougher one.
What did he say about
I
it?
understand it. For him, it's a very... He told me, I don't want to mislead anybody. He said Jimmy Lai is a tough one for him to do. You know, I went through a lot. And right or wrong, I went through a lot. So he told me that would be a tough one. He said he's going to strongly consider the pastor.
The media tycoon founded the now defunct pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily and often criticized the Chinese Communist Party. He was arrested in 2020 under China's sweeping national security law. After a drawn-out sham trial, Lai was sentenced to 20 years in prison in February under charges of sedition and colluding with foreign forces. His family now worries the 78-year-old, who has suffered failing health behind bars, could die in prison. His daughter, Claire, reacted to Trump's comments to EWTN News on Friday.
We are just so extremely grateful. You know, of course, the dream was for my father to come back on Air Force One, but I remain extremely confident that it's him and his administration that will secure the release of my father. In the days that follow, I hope that the Holy Spirit might move President Xi's heart and he might see the wisdom in releasing my aging and ailing father.
Claire also emphasized her father's faith has remained strong through his suffering and has even helped him come to understand God's mercy in a deeper way.
Did you bring up with President Xi any of the political prisoners in China? Are any going to be released? Any progress?
I think he's giving very serious consideration to the past.
But those comments aboard Air Force One on Friday give hope that another prisoner held in China could soon be released. Pastor Ezra Jin was detained at his home in October 2025, along with dozens of other church leaders across China. He is the founder of Zion Church, one of China's largest underground house church networks. Joining me now in our EWTN News studio are two guests who understand China's religious persecution all too well. Grace Jin Drexel is the daughter of Pastor Ezra Jin. She previously served as a research analyst in the Senate and the Congressional Executive Commission on China. She currently works as the Director of Advocacy at the Luke Alliance. Sam Brownback is the former U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom from 2018 to 2021. He also previously served as a U.S. Senator for Kansas and was the 46th Governor of Kansas and is the author of a new book released just this week called China's War on Faith. Thank you both for being here. Grace, I want to begin with you because we heard the president's comments on Friday. Is there any update about your father? Anything you can tell us that you've heard from the White House or lawyers? Are we closer to getting your father released?
Well, thank you so much. I've also saw the video recording of the president at Air Force One mentioning my father, and I was just so grateful and thankful. But this is the most hope that we've felt as a family since my father has been detained in October, and along with the 17 other church leaders, this is again just such a miracle that we've been praying for all this time. We know that the road ahead is still long, but again, we're just so thankful and had so much hope since we haven't had.
So much hope and momentum right
Yes.
now. Ambassador, I understand you are banned from entering China.
Yes, one of my great accolades in my life is to be banned by the People's Republic of China.
And tell us, what is China's relationship with religion? Explain to us the everyday reality facing Christians and Catholics there.
Well, the everyday reality is this is suppressed, oppressed, and in some cases they just try to annihilate it altogether. And it's a thoroughness. It's Christians, it's Buddhists, it's Muslims, it's Falun Gong. It's a Chinese communist regime that cannot tolerate any group that has an authority that's higher than the government. And if you do, they are going to oppress you, or they're going to control you some way or another, and they have to do this. And then they've developed these very effective systems to do this as well, with facial recognition and tracking devices on cell phones and all these things that they then freely share with other dictators to make them better dictators. It's really the way it's going to be in countries that are dictatorially run unless we break through this.
That monitoring and tracking is used to monitor if people are going to underground churches?
Underground church, it's really to find the needle in the haystack. It's to find the Pastor Ezra Jin. Now, he was easily found because it was an above ground church, but most of the church leaders are not, and they're meeting in small groups. And it's to find that one person that's leading the other people, grab them, get them out, and deal with them.
And Grace, give us more background on your father. Tell us about the reach of his ministry and how his arrest came about in October.
Yes, so my father became a pastor and became a Christian and then a pastor after the 1989 Tiananmen student protest, where he had just such a loss of faith in everything that he believed in prior to that. And at the depth of his despair, he found Christ, just like many people in the world, and found hope and joy and became a pastor soon afterwards. And from then, in 2007, he began Zion Church as an independent church away from the government, because just like Ambassador said, he realized that inside the government structure, they were controlling everything, including what can be taught in Bible studies, how many people can be baptized, etc. And so that felt like a church in captivity and not a church glorifying to the Lord. So the church, my father's church, starting from 2007, grew to around 1,500 people up to 2018, until it was crushed by the government, and we did not have any location to meet in Beijing. But my father, again, just being faithful, started his ministry online and offline, and that, beyond anyone's imagination, during COVID, it blew up and became a nationwide church, and we were ministering for tens and thousands of people. And one scholar said, instead of 7 years of despair, we had 7 years of harvest, and that we were able to minister to more people than we have ever imagined. And because of that, I think the Chinese Communist Party came after my father and the leaders.
Ambassador, you served in the first Trump administration. Are you hopeful President Trump can get Pastor Jin and Jimmy Lai released from prison in China? And can you give us some insight as to what those conversations with China must be looking like right now?
Well, I worked with him on Andrew Brunson that he got out in that first administration. And when the president gets focused on these things, he really goes after it. And he'll use the trying to really encourage Xi to do this and everything. And if that doesn't work, he'll use a club. So I think really there is good hope on this, and I hope on both cases, and I hope as well for the 9 Catholic bishops that are that are in detention now in China. 9 Catholic bishops. I really hope the president. I hope Pope Leo will start pushing publicly to get these bishops out.
Grace, what can you tell us, and what do you know about the status of your father's health, and when's the last time you heard from him?
Yeah, honestly, we don't know too much, and the only communication that we have is through lawyers. We haven't seen him, we haven't heard from him. There hasn't been any phone calls at all, and we only get to hear from lawyers. But and recently they've also been attacking our lawyers, so we've been also in between lawyers, so we've gotten even less information. Based on the little that we know, it's not looking good. He has severe type 2 diabetes, and he hasn't had the medication that the doctor prescribed him. The food is like horrible, and his sleeping conditions, it's basically just a mat on the floor, and there's not even windows on his cell. And so the wind and the rain can just come in whenever, and it's just, we just hope and pray that the Lord is sustaining him in the cell, but we're also really concerned about his health.
Of course, and we just, again, we join you and your family in prayer. Ambassador, you mentioned those 9 Catholic bishops who are imprisoned in China. Can you speak more about what is that specific action you would like to see from the Vatican and from Pope Leo?
Publicly asking for their release, pushing for it. The Vatican typically does this on a private basis and quiet basis, and I understand their desire to do that, but that hasn't been working. And these are 9 leaders of the Catholic Church, and now the Catholic Church in China, the Communist Party is directly appointing bishops. And you're going, no, this is a church that the church gets to appoint its bishops. And the Chinese Communist Party is claiming they get to appoint the next Dalai Lama. And no, you don't get to do that. The Tibetan Buddhists do this. And I think I would really hope the Vatican would start publicly coming out and saying this is wrong treatment of a religious body, of religious leaders, and we're going to start speaking out against the Chinese Communist Party for what they're doing. On top of the 3 religious genocides that are going on right now in China, of the Uyghurs, of the Falun Gong, of the Tibetan Buddhists.
Thank you for raising awareness about that. And you write about that in your new book as well. Grace, I understand that even before his imprisonment, your father was banned from leaving China. And now here you are, you're pregnant, I believe, with your 3rd child.
Yes.
Do you mind just sharing what your family has missed out on these past few years with your father not here?
Thank you. In 2018, when right before my father's church was dismantled in the physical location, my family, my mom and my brothers and I came to the U.S. and my father decided he was with us initially and he went back to China to be with the church after realizing the fact that he wasn't in China wasn't de-escalating in any way, and he wanted to be with the church and suffer with the church. And since then, he wasn't allowed to leave China. So it's been like 8 years for our family members, and he hasn't seen my brothers graduate. Before they were in elementary school and middle school, and now they're in college and going to college next year. My dad was not there to walk me down the aisle at my wedding, and my 2 kids, they have never met their grandfather. And now with my baby boy, we still don't think, I just hope and pray that we will be able to meet my dad and that he will be both a spiritual and just a familial mentor to everyone.
We're going to share in that hope for you and your family
so
as well,
much.
Grace. And Ambassador, just in my final moment with you both, the role Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, I believe, remains vacant right now in the Trump administration. Can you just share your reaction to that, and what risks does that vacancy pose?
Well, they had a nominee who wasn't able to get on through the Senate, and I think they're vetting some additional people now to get it appointed. What happens is you lose that voice then inside the administration and exterior across the world. Because I traveled a lot, and you could go with the authority of the President, authority of the United States government, and say, and talk about religious freedom cases or people that should be released. But also inside the administration, you can advocate for these policies that will push religious freedom, which we really need. We're the country in the world that stands for this, and you need to be strong, and President Trump has been on this, and we really pray and hope that he continues to show that strength.
Well, I thank you for your work and advocacy on this issue, and Grace, thank you for your witness. Again, we all join our prayers with you and your family.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.